Hi folks, Pixel Pedant here with more time travel to the early 80s, again taking a look at the history of the early 80s video game phenomenon that was Imagic. My main motivation there being a look at what Imagic ended up contributing to the TI-99 4A, from its brief but well-loved library of home video game hits. In an earlier video, I looked at Imagic's foundation and first games, and I looked at what from that era ended up in the TI-99 4A library. Namely, Demon Attack, but under the name Super Demon Attack. And with Dracula as the big bad for some reason. Dracula is certainly an Imagic character, but not in that game. Maybe it was a reference? Maybe the art was left over from an unfinished port? And maybe this is turning into my favorite conspiracy theory, and this video is just getting off track. So, well, regardless, today I'm going to look a bit further into that history, and I'm going to look at the next game from Imagic that found its way to the TI-99. Imagic was founded on July 17, 1981 by a mix of Atari and Mattel developers. Bob Smith, Rob Fulop, and Dennis Coble are the biggest names in that mix, from a present-day standpoint anyway. With Atari and Mattel talent on hand, Imagic was really well positioned from the start to develop for both of the biggest video game systems of the era simultaneously. The Atari VCS, as it was called at the time, and the Mattel Intellivision. Incidentally, I'm really inconsistent about what I call the Atari 2600, namely the VCS or the 2600, respectively. But it's still officially the VCS during Imagic's early era, so that's why I mainly end up leaning in that direction when talking about it here, because that's what every developer interview and magazine ad and TV commercial and what have you is calling it. Having justified that habit, though, I'm definitely not going to be consistent about it. Not a chance. Back to Imagic, Demon Attack by Fulop and Atlantis by Coble are big early successes for Imagic, and they're both released on VCS as well as in Intellivision. And even in ports for Odyssey 2, pretty remarkably, a platform very much not known for its third-party titles. So while Imagic played both sides with VCS and Intellivision from the start, and that was kind of the program, they also weren't restricting themselves to just those two platforms. And if they were, I wouldn't be making a video called Imagic and the TI-99 4A. So that's the story so far. While Atlantis and Demon Attack were their biggest successes to come out of their first year, and Demon Attack would eventually find its way to the TI-99, they released a dozen or so other carts by the end of '82, most of them either VCS only or Intellivision only. They gained a reputation for making the most of those machines' capabilities, and those capabilities are pretty radically different as far as the 2600 and Intellivision go, so their larger library tends to reflect that, with most titles taking advantage of the features of the one or the features of the other, rather than trying to awkwardly straddle the divide between the two. And most of their marketing targets either Atari or Intellivision gamers respectively, rather than both. Demon Attack, as a big title for both systems, is more the exception than the rule. Demon Attack, Dragonfire, and Atlantis are the only titles from their first year which see release on both platforms. In late '82, one game that takes advantage of what Mattel's Intellivision can do, and Atari's VCS can't, is Imagic's Microsurgeon. One of 4 Intellivision exclusive Imagic titles released that year, the others being Swords and Serpents, Beauty and the Beast, and Dracula. In Microsurgeon, you take control of a robotic probe as it travels around the human body, treating disease and infection along the way. It's a game that by design wants to portray a realistic human body, and wants to treat it as a collection of anatomic building blocks, basically. So it pretty much demands tile-based color graphics, and there's no way getting around that. Making it suited to the Intellivision, and making it pretty much just impossible to do on the 2600 with its 40-pixel mirrored playfield and its 2-player sprites. Microsurgeon also wants to let you choose different treatment options on the fly, making it well suited to the Intellivision controller's abundant buttons, and not really a game that can be played on a one-button joystick. And yeah, that's right, I just said something nice about the Intellivision controller. So, considering what this game's trying to do, it makes sense that it got its start on Intellivision, and it makes sense that from there it went to systems that could push even more graphical detail. Namely, TI-99 4A and PC Junior. Just not immediately in those cases, given that PC Junior wasn't a thing that existed when Microsurgeon was released in 1982. TI-99 4A, on the other hand, had the advantage of existing at the time, so it got its port sooner. Imagic didn't start moving in the direction of home computers right away, though. Atari computers were the first to appear in Imagic's product catalog in November 1982 with Demon Attack, unsurprisingly given their leadership team was mostly ex-Atari. Still, VIC-20 Demon Attack was one of the new items they were promoting at Winter CES not long after that, in January 1983. So they didn't stay Atari exclusive for long. I'm sure they could feel the winds of change hitting the video games industry, and hitting Atari in particular, as well as anybody could. The games market took a bad hit in the fourth quarter of '82. Imagic itself, on the other hand, had a lot of success it could point to, and had big plans for the future. It was looking to expand its market, not contract it in response to a broader market contraction. It was actively investing in expansion, and not just internally, it was on a publicity and marketing blitz, throwing a $10,000 Defend Atlantis tournament in Bermuda, and a $1,000 Riddle of the Sphinx contest, and buying magazine and TV ads promoting its top VCS and Intellivision titles, as well as creating some of the fanciest game packaging the industry had ever seen. On the one hand, Imagic was the industry's biggest success story of the period. On the other hand, they just had to delay their IPO in late '82 due to the uncertainty hitting the video game industry as a whole. While the future still looked good for Imagic, it didn't look like the astronomical growth projections they were trying to sell investors were going to be realistic after all. The uncertainty that had Video Games Magazine reporting in March '83 that video games are under attack hurt them too. But maybe a slowdown in the market didn't have to mean a slowdown for them if they could find new platforms to sell their games on where the market was still growing, if they could untether themselves from the fates of Atari and Mattel. In April '83, Bill Grubb told Creative Computing that two of those new platforms they wanted to look towards were TI-99 4A and ColecoVision. No promises and no titles yet at that point, but an expression of intent at least to find new ways to succeed in a video game industry where the Atari and Mattel game console market share just wasn't going to keep on growing forever at the pace Imagic itself wanted to grow. Microsurgeon for TI-99 4A became a promise and not just a possibility at Summer CES '83 shortly after this, where Demon Attack, Fathom, and Flap were other announced titles. Imagic and TI were joining forces. The most exciting new developer of the era was now developing some of the most exciting titles of the era for TI-99. But the question a lot of people are going to ask when they hear news of this kind will often, and I'd say justifiably, be, alright, that's nice, but is this after-the-fact port really going to get the tender loving care that the original did? After all, Demon Attack didn't. They just farmed it out to Western Technologies. And Microsurgeon, especially, being the passion project of Imagic's The Good Doctor Rick Levine, who went from medicine to math to game development and put his medical knowledge to work for Imagic, it's got a real story and, a developer background. It's a really unique project by a developer who brought unique talents to the table, so a quick third-party port probably isn't going to work at all. If you'd like to read more about the creation of Microsurgeon, incidentally, I recommend reading the interview with Rick Levine in Electronic Fund's December 1982 issue. The good news on the TI-99 front is that Rick Levine likewise developed the TI-99 4A port, so it has the good doctor's blessing. In a modern interview, he said, "The TI-99 4A was fun to work on. I was able to add speech synthesis to Microsurgeon. I think it said something like, paging Dr. Levine, paging Dr. Levine, and the graphics run on a higher resolution." He's right about the paging Dr. Levine voice synth, incidentally. That's exactly what it says, with some other samples as well.
Patient is ready for microsurgery, doctor. Robot probe entering the heart. Virus.
And yeah, the TI-99 4A naturally has some more resolution to work with. It doesn't use it in the most predictable way, actually. Its body graphics offer the same level of detail as the Intellivision version, as they're windowed. But you get constant access to patient status information, instead of that being placed on a separate screen, so that's a major bonus versus the Intellivision version for me. You also get a zoomed-in viewport at right, the close-up scanner, as the manual calls it, and the patient treatment scene at the bottom. And yeah, that doesn't need to be there, the treatment scene, but I think it's absolutely great atmosphere. I love that little touch. The upshot is, if I'm doing surgery on my TI-99, MASH can take a hike, because it's going to be microsurgery. Just a little bit more anatomically accurate, I'd say. But as far as visual accuracy goes, I actually like that the TI-99 version of Microsurgeon has manual art that isn't as completely terrifying, as it isn't as photographic as the Intellivision version's realistic art. I think the pixelated abstraction really reflects the game more accurately and, yes, less terrifyingly than the Intellivision version's art, which is just nightmare fuel. That gets reused as well on the PC Junior version. The Intellivision version also has real anatomic photography in the manual. One of the things that helps give you a sense that the game actually wants to put you in a realistic human body, not just in a game world that borrows imaginatively or arbitrarily from human anatomy. Given TI's relatively Spartan manual stylings, the imagery isn't quite as abundant in the TI version, but most of the anatomic information's still there, even if it's not quite as showy as what you get in the Intellivision version. And there are even color illustrations. In a TI manual, color? Yeah. So ultimately, I don't really have any complaints about the manual. It was translated to the TI format about as well as you could ask for, and not much of significance is lost. As far as the game itself goes, the game benefits plenty from TI-99 graphics and sound, but with this edutainment kind of angle it's pushing, it's also just a game which really fits the system's identity. A game which features interesting arcade action, but also wants to teach you something. Very TI-99, I like that. Learn about the human body and try not to kill someone. Everybody wins, except that guy, 'cause honestly, he's gonna die. I don't know how to use this ultrasonic ray thing. He is very, very doomed. Reviews for TI-99 Microsurgeon were excellent. Even before it was released, it was the cover story for July 1983's 99er, based on the CES reports. The International Users Group had the CES news in its June issue. The Pittsburgh User Group announced it in its July issue. Enthusiast 99 announced it in September. And ultimately, when Micropendium, then Home Computer Compendium, reviewed it in February, they had the news for 99ers that Microsurgeon was just what the doctor ordered. A cool feature of this port is its support for two-joystick play, wherein one joystick controls your motion, and another controls where you're shooting your ultrasonic ray or any other treatment. Basically, you can strafe. This is carried over from the Intellivision version, which likewise uses two-controller play, and has different controller overlays for each controller as a consequence. So that if you want to play with two players, one can be the gunner, and one can be the pilot, basically. Or if you want to play with two controllers as one person, embrace the struggle. Now with the classic TI-99 pain sticks, aka the wired remote controllers, this would sort of have to be a two-person job. Or just some kind of self-imposed torture otherwise, I guess. And I guess I must be into that kind of thing because as soon as it occurred to me what an inherently bad idea trying to play Microsurgeon with both wired remote controllers at once was, I had to try single-player 2-pane stick play. And yeah, don't, because with friendlier joystick options, one-person 2-controller play can be pretty appealing. Though you still need to remove a hand from the joystick to select a treatment option, or if you want to turn on and off sensors, though that's merely aesthetic. So, one hand on the keyboard and one on a joystick, which features a button on the stick, like my trusty Wiko bat handle here, can also be a really appealing solution, I find. But maybe I should just try to play using my Wiko trackball. That'd be dumb. Keyboard-only play is also available, and that's definitely one way to make sure the game has as many inputs as it wants, but I'm usually not a fan of keyboard play in games that require diagonals, which this one pretty much does, inherently. And it has 2 separate sets of diagonals, given treatment direction and probe motion direction, each have their own directional controls, hence the 2-joystick option. So for those whose fingers have an easy time finding the W, R, Z, and C diagonals, this might be fine, but I'll be sticking with joysticks, I think. Like Rick Levine mentioned, he added voice synth to the game in the TI-99 version, and it definitely is a feature there. This is one feature Imagic was looking at targeting at the time for future development elsewhere as well. Voice synth was getting increasing attention in the video game industry as a whole in '82, with Intellivision getting IntelliVoice, and Odyssey 2 getting The Voice as their respective options. But the TI-99 had already had it for a while at that point, and had been using it more actively than those 2 platforms ultimately ever would. So it's nice that it found its way into Microsurgeon, as it does the other games Imagic itself develops for the TI-99 4A. So Microsurgeon is the earliest title in Imagic's catalog to get a TI-99 4A port that is really an unqualified success on all levels. It's a unique and interesting game design, which was ported to the TI-99 4A by the original developer. It takes advantage of what the TI-99 offers it, and it really fits the system's identity nicely. What's more, its control options are interesting and diverse enough to suit anyone's preferences. This is also the last Imagic game for TI-99 whose original version predates Imagic's announcement of its intent to develop games for the TI-99 4A. There are a couple of modest homebrew attempts at Dracula and Dragonfire that have popped up over the years, but as far as commercial releases, Demon Attack and Microsurgeon were the titles from Imagic's 1982 catalog that saw a release on TI-99. The other games Imagic announced at Summer CES 1983 were titles still in development. 2 more would ultimately be released for TI-99, but only one of those, Fathom, was announced by name at CES. Both of those remaining titles will have to wait for another video. Anyway, doing this review of a game where you fight infection and disease has felt pretty on point as a topic for a review in 2020. Microsurgeon? Kind of game of the year. All the same, maybe next time I'll review a game where you shoot things with a rocket ship, or fly around as a seagull, or swim around as a dolphin. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this retrospective and review, go ahead and subscribe. And tell me what your favorite Imagic game is, by all means. This is Pixel Pedant, signing off. Keep on partying like it's TI-99, and I promise I will too.